The mind-like aspects of the virtual states. States transitions in their atoms and molecules are comparable to the events that your mind goes through when it receives a signal from your senses. When you have to respond to an external stimulus, your mind will first reach into the unconscious realm of the inner images, and then it decides which one will be the best to actualize. The virtual states of the atom aren't only non-empirical forms, they are also forms of potentiality. That is, they have the potential to express themselves in the empirical world when they get occupied. From this, we see that the concept of the probability is indispensable when we want to describe what microphysical systems are like. This brings us to the thought-like aspect of the virtual quantum states, because our thoughts are also non-material and non-empirical forms that have a nature of potentiality. The thoughts in you exist, but not as empirical structures. Nobody can look into your brain and watch a single thought. At the same time, your thoughts are real for you, because you know that they are in your mind and you can think them. They exist in you as a potentiality because they can express themselves in the empirical world. For example, you can express thoughts in the spoken words or write it down on a piece of paper. Thoughts belong, of course, to your mind. It is in this sense that I call them mind-like. They aren't matter-like or energy-like, but mind-like. Does that allow us to conclude that at the level of the atoms and molecules, mind-like order expresses itself spontaneously in the material world? Certainly, apart from what we can factually say at this point, nothing can stop us from exploring this possibility. Wow. All the states of the atoms and molecules are patterns of the numbers, information, or wave functions. But, as we have seen, we have to distinguish between the empty states and occupied states. They differ in that occupied states have observable properties, while empty states are invisible patterns of the logic. Even occupied states aren't visible in the manner in which the solid forms of the bricks and the steel balls are visible at the single glance, but their patterns appear in the repeated measurements. You can think that patterns of the occupied orbitals can be made visible, like the single particle interference pattern that are discussed in the appendix of the chapter 1. That is, each observation of the occupied orbital will produce the dot-like appearance of the electron, and the pattern of the orbital will appear when the dots of the many observations merge together. Wow. The relationship between trans-empirical virtual orbitals and empirical occupied orbitals allow us a glimpse at how something thought-like can express itself in the empirical world. The first step of this process lies in the transformation of the virtual order into actual order. This happens when an electron occupies the virtual state of the atom or molecule and turn it into an occupied state. In this process, a virtual wave function is transformed into an actual wave function of the occupied state. Interestingly, both types of the wave function involved in this process, the virtual and the actual, are the same sort of things, if I can use the term thing in this context. Both of them are list of numbers. Wow. The two lists of numbers differ in an important point. An actual state can give rise to an emergence of the probability pattern which it is observed repeatedly. An empty state can't do that. Even the visible property distribution of occupied states aren't visible in a single measurement, but emerges in the repeated measurements. It is really an important puzzle how the mind and its thoughts can affect the material brain and the world. How can something non-energetic affect emerge processes? It is possible because the first step from the virtual to the actual involves the entity of a single type. We can only describe these entities in a mathematical way, that is, as numbers. Yes.